When we talked about the brand of watch, the first thing that comes to our mind is Rolex, right? Mostly men want to flex a Rolex. Today, we've covered the best model of Rolex watches in the world, comprised of individual references. Hello and welcome to Luxury Premier, the ultimate destination for dreamers pursuing insight. And if you're here with us, it's not a coincidence that you are watching this video. Here in Luxury Premier, we only want what is best for you. May our videos inspire you and hope that all of your dreams may come true. Rolex Submariner. With a price of $8,950,000 plus, the rotating bezel of the Submariner is a key feature of the watch. Its engraved 60-minute graduations let a diver track diving time and decompression stops accurately and securely. The Cerachrome bezel inlay is virtually scratch-proof and is made by Rolex from durable, corrosion-resistant ceramic. The zero marker has a luminous capsule that ensures visibility in low-light conditions. The bezel's knurled edge has been meticulously engineered to provide exceptional grip beneath the water, even when wearing gloves. The first diving watches with rotating bezels were released simultaneously by Rolex and Blackpink. The most iconic and essential dive watch in history was born in 1953, when Rolex added an external diving bezel to a more robust version of their already notoriously water-resistant OYSTER Perpetual, reserved the automated winding, and added a tough adjustable bracelet. Rolex acknowledged that their Submariner had progressed from tool to jewel, and during the decade of materialism, gold, two-tone, and even diamond-encrusted versions appeared. Today, however, it's the basic steel models that are hard to come by at retail and sell for up to 25% more than retail among collectors. While gold variants are frequently on display awaiting adoption, steel subs are in high demand all around the world, which is a strange phenomenon. Rolex GMT Master 2. With the price of $10,550 plus. The GMT Master 2 includes an arrow-tipped hand that rounds the dial once every 24 hours, as well as a bi-directional rotatable 24-hour graded bezel. The 24-hour hand is differently colored and displays the home reference time in a first time zone, as indicated by the graduations on the bezel. Intercontinental movement across time zones is evoked by the GMT Master 2. Greenwich Mean Time, or GMT, refers to the mean solar time of the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, London, the original meridian for calculating longitude and setting different time zones around the world. On a GMT Master 2, a second time zone can be configured quickly and read at a glance. In the 1950s, when Pan American Airlines ruled the transatlantic skies, Rolex created the GMT Master for their pilots, who needed to track various time zones at the same time. The GMT Master 2 was introduced in 1989 with a new movement in a thinner case that proved to be major hits, with steel and gold examples displaying a pitch-perfect jet-setting attitude. Many people knew how to wear a Rolex Submariner with panache, but wearing a GMT Master 2 was a subtly sophisticated move that highlighted the owner's individuality. The GMT Master 2 retains its guarded quirkiness to this day. Rolex released an updated GMT Master 2 in 2007 with a ceramic bezel and a new mechanism that included several current upgrades. Since then, it's been all about metal and color combinations, which are issued at a slow and painful pace of approximately one per year at best. In 2022, however, a model with a left-handed orientation in a previously unknown coloring of black and green for the bezel debuted. It's nearly impossible to find a steel GMT Master 2 at a retail store. The Batman, blue and black, Pepsi, blue and red, and root beer, brown and beige, on the other hand, have all been well received. Many of us Coke enthusiasts are looking for another Coke black and red as soon as possible. Rolex COSMOGRAPH Daytona. With a price of $14,550 plus. The COSMOGRAPH Daytona was created in 1963 to fulfill the needs of professional racing drivers. It is a symbol of the high-performance world of motorsport, both in name and function. The COSMOGRAPH Daytona, more than 50 years after its debut, remains unique among sports chronographs and continues to defy time. Rolex created and manufactures the caliber of 4130, a self-winding mechanical chronograph movement for the COSMOGRAPH Daytona. Its architecture uses fewer components than a traditional chronograph, resulting in increased movement reliability. It also saves space by allowing a big mainspring to be housed while providing a 72-hour power reserve. The COSMOGRAPH Daytona is intrinsically related to the racing world. On its iconic tachymetric bezel, drivers can monitor elapsed time and read average speeds. The timepiece pays homage to Daytona, Florida, where a fascination for speed and racing arose in the early 20th century. The name encapsulates Rolex's long and privileged relationship with motorsport, which was cemented in 2013 when the brand became a global partner and official timepiece of Formula One racing. Rolex Sea Dweller. With a price of $12,950, they are the ultimate manifestation of Rolex's leadership in diverse watches and the result of decades of collaboration with diving professionals. Waterproof to a depth of 4,000 feet for the Rolex Sea Dweller, introduced in 1967, and 12,800 feet for the Rolex Deep Sea, introduced in 2008. In 2014, Rolex released a special edition of the watch, the Rolex Deep Sea with a deep blue dial, to celebrate James Cameron's historic solo dive to the Mariana Trench's depths of 11,000 meters. Its two-color gradient dial celebrates one man's trip to the deepest location on Earth, from twilight blue to bottomless darkness. By navigating the Bathyscaphe Trieste to the lowest point in the world's oceans, Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench in 1960, U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh and Swiss oceanographer Jacques Piccard forever lifted the standard for marine exploration. The submersible was carrying an experimental Rolex watch, the Deep Sea Special, when they surfaced from their historic dive to a depth of 10,916 meters in the Pacific Ocean. It was in great order, the only watch to have survived being submerged for so long in real-world conditions, an accomplishment that reaffirmed Rolex's position as the pioneer and leader of the waterproof timepiece. Rolex Explorer. With a price of $7,200+, Rolex sent one up Mount Everest with Sir Edmund Hillary's crew for the first successful summiting in 1953. It had already been around for almost 2 decades as the OYSTER Perpetual. Rolex then repositioned the dial slightly, added the word Explorer, and sold it to a new generation of mid-century mountaineering aficionados. Due to its low price, the Explorer became an entry-level Rolex sports model, and it remains such to this day. The Explorer, like all Rolex models, has undergone several changes, including more current incarnations such as the 14270, which is now famous among vintage collectors since its tritium luminosity has finally become beige. Rolex increased the case size with the launching of the 39 Explorer in 2002, but the Explorer has been reduced to 36 mm since 2021, suggesting that the trend towards smaller watches is still very much alive today. Rolex surprised us in 2021 with a two-tone model. The first time gold was added to the selection. Rolex Explorer 2. With a price of $9,500+, a watch for spelunking? That's correct. The brightly luminous 24-hour GMT hand was designed to aid cave dwellers in keeping track of time. Even though spelunking isn't exactly a popular sport, the Explorer 2 has become a popular watch among people who appreciate a unique appearance and GMT functionality. According to current marketing materials, the Explorer 2 was introduced in 1971 to perpetuate the privileged link Rolex has with adventure. It is now available with either a black or white dial. The watch's spelunking heritage, on the other hand, is mostly forgotten, as it is increasingly functions as a tool for adventures of all types. Even though the Explorer 2 was upgraded from a delicious 40mm case to a 42mm maxi case in 2011, the reference 216570 was created to honor the original 1971 design, which consists of an orange GMT hand in the proper shape. However, those 2 extra millimeters don't feel significant on the wrist and are only noticeable when compared to a 40mm model. Rolex MILGAUSS. With a price of $9,150+, the MILGAUSS was released in 1956. The world was abuzz with nuclear research, particularly at CERN, the world's most advanced particle accelerator. Meanwhile, all of the amazing technology generated during World War II was being used for commercial applications, making electrical engineers one of the most important professional groups in the world at the moment. Rolex provided them with just what they required, a watch that could resist 1000 MILGAUSS, which is a measure of electromagnetic fields. Unfortunately, scientists and engineers aren't as well known as they should be, and the MILGAUSS is the only contemporary Rolex model that was discontinued between 1988 and 2007. When the watch was reintroduced in 2007, it was a pleasant surprise for Rolex fans, and the lightning bolt seconds hand is still the most entertaining feature of any Rolex model today. The current version isn't tough to get in stores, and the MILGAUSS, more than any other Rolex model, is the one that will help you stand out in a crowd. It is, without a doubt, a watch for the informed. Rolex Air King. With a price of $7,400, the Air King, like the Explorer, was known as the Oyster Perpetual for a long time before Rolex put Air King on the dial and began promoting it to a new generation of post-World War II jet-setters, men who idolized and copied former war pilots now flying jumbo aircraft across the Atlantic. Rolex's new model, introduced in 1945, tapped into that wave of optimism for the future, and nothing said future at the time like gorgeous commercial aircraft that made a weekend journey across the ocean to Paris, New York, Rome, or London a reality. A fun fact, the 34mm casing was considered huge at the time, which is why it was dubbed the King. The current edition is 40mm in diameter and features one of Rolex's most contentious dials. The occasional hour and minute markings, as well as the hints of green and yellow on the current Air King, are visually unusual. It's the only Rolex watch with a dial and colorful logo style. The Air King was completely redesigned for 2022 with a new movement, design, modifications, and most importantly, a new oyster casing with crown guards, providing the new Air King a distinct feature set among the brand's collections. The Air King is positioned at the peripheral of the professional line watches for today's Rolex fans. An Air King, on the other hand, is relatively easy to find at retail, which is almost hard to say of any other all-steel model on the professional side of the catalog. A bird in the hand is preferable to two in the bush. Rolex Yacht Master. With the price of $12,350+, the Rolex Submariner has gone gold by the 1980s, and preppy people all over the world were wearing them as status symbols. With the all-gold Yacht Master of 1992, Rolex punched the preppy class in the face. Since its release, the Yacht Master has evolved uniquely. It has become more athletic and less blingy, which is not typical for Rolex's progression. The Yacht Master is a bit of a surprise model in the Rolex catalog, with less glitz and more ruggedness, and it's just as capable as the Submariner, which it mimics. Rolex introduced the Yacht Master in platinum and steel in 1999, and since then, the precious metal combinations have been infinite. The modern Yacht Master is 42mm or smaller, and it features all of Rolex's latest technologies, both inside and out: the relief ceramic bezel and the Oyster Flex rubber strap, which is surprisingly pleasant and robust. On the wrist are standout features. What has always seemed to be missing, though it is a sailing-specific timing device, usually a 10-minute timer that is engaged when the starting gun sounds. The less utilitarian appearance makes sense, given the watch's origins as a Shimansi wristwatch for hanging around the docks in elegance. Rolex Yacht Master 2. With a price of $18,750+, with one of Rolex's more sophisticated movements, a 10-minute countdown stopwatch complication running seconds on a traditionally placed subdial above 6 o'clock, a large 42mm case, a ceramic bezel, 300 meters of water resistance, and more yachting style than any other sailing watch on the market. We're talking serious sailboat racing technology. The ring command bezel lets you set the timer for 1 to 10 minutes. Nonetheless, this is one of Rolex's trendiest and most intricate mechanisms, and most people aren't crewing on real racing boats or climbing mountains, flying jets, or scuba diving, though those watches sell out quickly as well. The Yacht Master 2 is Rolex's most recent new model, released in 2010, and it has yet to earn historical significance. As a result, they're more readily available at retail, and the Yacht Master 2 is a success with fans of the maritime ambience and cool movement. Rolex Oyster Perpetual. With a price of $5,300+, this is the watch that established Rolex as the undisputed monarch of industrial watchmaking. The OP had a first-time combination of strong water resistance and automatic wounding when it was released in 1950. The term perpetual alludes to its rotor swinging 360 degrees around a central axis, in other words, continually winding. End users, however, are more concerned with the waterproof watch's durability and modern function-forward look. Since then, the Oyster Perpetual has been in continuous production, and it served as the inspiration for many other Rolex models, including the iconic Submariner, Explorer, Air King, Datejust, and Day-Date. The Oyster Perpetual is one of the few all-steel models available today, and it comes in a variety of sizes and colors. The OP is a pure embodiment of the Rolex brand, one that is easily recognized despite lacking several major trademark visual cues. It has no date, no cyclops, no complications, no fluted gold bezel, and a slim case polished to a high mirror quality. Rolex Datejust. With a price of $7,100+, in 1945, Rolex incorporated the first date complication to its Oyster models, which changed right before midnight rather than taking hours to turn over. That feature was unusual and convenient in the 1940s, and it's still unique and convenient now. On the Datejust of 1945, the Cyclops date magnifier was also a first. Though it no longer serves a purpose, the most famous contemporary Datejust preserves the fluted bezel of the early Oyster models. These visual clues, when combined with the Cyclops, scream Rolex louder than any other feature on any other model, including the Submariner and the Daytona. The Datejust is the ideal watch for the person who wants one watch to do it all. The Datejust is a mid-century classic that remains the cornerstone of Rolex's portfolio. Robust, ready for water, shocks, and all kinds of punishment, but stylish enough to wear to a wedding or funeral. A Datejust may be the only watch you'll ever need. It's essential, classic, and always in style. Rolex Day-Date. With a price of $36,850+, the day of the week was plainly displayed in an arced aperture at the top of the dial in a version of Rolex's Datejust introduced in 1965. It also came on a brand new 5-link bracelet that glistened even in dim light. Few would have predicted that these little changes to a 20-year-old model would become the preferred watch of successive U.S. presidents, including JFK and Reagan. After the Datejust, the Day-Date is the most recognizable Rolex, and no dressy CELLINI or other model seems capable of outshining it, both literally and metaphorically. As a result, the Day-Date is always available in a variety of sizes and with enough precious metals and diamonds to tip the scales into ostentation. A plain, unadorned Day-Date, on the other hand, remains one of the most elegant watches on the market, a symbol of sophistication and excellent taste. Rolex Sky Dweller. With a price of $15,200+, the Sky Dweller was released by Rolex in 2012 to mixed reviews. Some people despise the way it appears, making it a kind of a rebel decision, while others praise the mechanical achievement. What sets this movement apart is that the bezel acts as a selector for whichever function you want to set with the crown. The bezel is rotated to one of 7 locations, and the associated function is adjusted with the crown. It may appear difficult at first, but it quickly becomes second nature, a beautiful and one-of-a-kind design. It's also 42mm across, which is on the larger side for a Rolex, but Sky Dweller is ideal for individuals who want their watch to leap off the wrist. Rolex CELLINI. With a price of $26,750, Rolex has never been known for their dress watches, but their dressy CELLINI collection, ironically, is where the brand has been most daring. Stylistically, it's almost as though Rolex uses the CELLINI line as an artistic playground, though this was especially true in the 1970s, when practically every shape known to geometry was tried and abandoned every year. The CELLINI series is now down to only one model, the moon phase. This distinguishes this model not only as of the only one in the present collection, but also as one of Rolex's most intricate and unusual models, displaying not only the phases of the moon, but also the date via a pointer, rather than the traditional aperture. Like previous models in the range, it's dressed up in a 1930s style that Patek Philippe and Vacheron Constantin are known for. Rolex makes no pretense of handcrafting their watches, so the CELLINI series is a good place to start if you're looking for a high-end Swiss dress watch. Now, which one do you prefer to buy? Let us know in the comment. Today, we hope you learned something new that you will remember for the rest of your life. We'd like to thank everyone who has stayed with us this far, despite the fact that we have never met. Please know that we respect and admire you for choosing to be here today. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us, dreamers. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos.